Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's already time for game number 4. Can't believe it. Time flies, man.
So quickly. Potentially the last game of this qualifier.
Could be.
The week's almost over.
It really could be, because complexity. They're up 2-1 in this best of 5 qualifier finals for the NA region for ESL 1 Genting. Just one game away from punching their ticket to a pro circuit event. We'll see whether they can do that right now. We already have some changes. Immortals, well, they ban out the Tiny because for the first time this series, I believe, they are not the ones with first pick. And they also take out the Z-Freak Enchantress that just pretty much wrecked them in the last game.
Yeah, that Enchantress was not good for them. Obviously, with the rotations and getting the kills, right, that was a big issue for Immortals. But on top of that, the economic advantage that Enchantress provides just by being able to farm the jungle made it really difficult for Immortals to keep up in terms of items, in terms of experience, and then they were at a very early deficit as well. Complexity opened up with the Rubik, of all things.
10 seconds remaining.
Especially considering the Slaughter Witch Doctor combo would have been open for them. If they had wanted to, they could have technically gone back for that. Yeah. But they open with the Rubik first.
Yeah. So, all teams seem to really favor that hero.
Quickly before they pick it, Sand King is available for Complexity. Something that has been banned out, I believe, in the first 2 games. And it is one of Moo's signature heroes, and they really like picking it together with other heroes that have a lot of kill potential or potential mobility. And
10 seconds.
Rubik doesn't necessarily fit into the category, but still a lot of space created by that Sand King for sure.
5 seconds.
There's still some synergies, right? I mean, Rubik with the magic damage amplification that he brings to the table. It does help somewhat, but that's going to be the Omni Knights.
I haven't seen that hero in this series at all.
Yeah, I believe he's been banned out once or twice.
I think he was... No, I don't even think so. If anything in the second phase, but not the first phase.
Not in the first phase, for sure.
We've seen a lot of support bans in the first phase, not so much offlaners.
10 seconds remaining.
So Immortals go back for the line, and they also grab themselves a Tusk, so it's...
5 seconds remaining.
How do you feel like that? How do you feel about that? I mean, what's the game plan here coming into this? I mean, you're down 2-1. You're on an elimination game, essentially. What's your approach here? Do you just want to go aggressive? Do you want to try and bring complexity off balance? Or what do you do?
Yeah, I think if you look towards those past 3 games, right, you look at what went wrong in the 2 games that you lost.
10 seconds
and
remaining.
I think it ultimately comes down to the laning stage and the fact that they didn't have enough answers to a lot of the aggression, that they didn't have aggression themselves, right? In that last game, they had the Nyx Assassin as the core and the ET as a support. The ET as a support did nothing, honestly speaking. It's not because of Febby. Febby's an excellent player, and we've seen him do great things on it here, even in the last game, but there's also only so much he can do as the ET.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have the Nyx Assassin as the core. Didn't really do much. We haven't really... We've seen one Vendetta rotation, I guess, or maybe there were a few of them, for sure.
One or two that were really effective, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in my head, I think they need something much more proactive early on, so I hope that this is going to be the support duo indeed, and not like some sort of like offlane task. Even offlane task is actually fine if they have another aggressive support to comment with.
Again, the Clockwork comes to mind, right? They won with game 2 with that, and it really worked out extremely well, because they did exactly what we were just talking about, right? Bring complexity off balance, shut down some of these heroes, and in this game, like, you already have the Rubik, so maybe not the Clockwork per se, because of course Rubik one of these classic soft counters, so you can pluck the Clockwork out, but we'll see what they want to do. For now, it's a Death Prophet, a hero that kind of crops up every now and again, more and more often, I feel like.
For complexity, it could actually be Clockwork SF, if they wanted to go down that route. Would be a solid support duo. They would have a lot of physical damage, and Omni Knight SF is a good combo just because Omni Knight is a frontliner, able to soak up a lot of the damage. Of course, you don't have to build into that early BKB if you wanted to play really aggressively. So I think that could be an option. But yeah, as for the Death Prophet, we do see it come up here and there. Immortals as well. We've seen it yesterday, in fact, against VGJ Storm, and it is one of those heroes that the ultimate. Even if things go badly, the ultimate generally always allows you to take an objective. Even if it's a team, ideally it's a team fight, but generally speaking, it's mostly just towers, right? You take towers very, very quickly with that ultimate, and Immortals like playing that way. The sort of being able to take that objective very secure, but also having a fallback in the laning stage, where we have, Death Prophet as a very, very solid laner as well. Yeah. So I feel like this is already a much more well-rounded lineup than we had before. Granted, we haven't seen the other 2 picks yet, but I already see much more aggression coming out and also more control in a way. Of course, they do need an answer to that Omni Knight in a way, because Omni Knight right now, very difficult to deal with. They until they have the blink hacks on the Lion, they don't really have any way of sort of like shutting him down.
Yeah.
So I expect some sort of, you know, at the very least, something in the laning stage that can deal with him.
Yeah.
Potentially something along the lines of a Brewmaster that we see oftentimes as a counter to, obviously, throwing him up in the air is a good counter. And in the lane, you do quite well against him as well.
Yeah.
Radiant team pick.
Let's see if they want to do that. Okay, gonna grab the Tidehunter instead. Alright, so that's gonna be their solo lane position.
Yeah, sort of fills that same role though, right? We have somebody that does really well in the lane generally, and also a very utility-based hero. What I don't like from Immortals is that they are very ultimate dependent.
Yeah.
10 seconds
That said, though,
remaining.
because of their big ultimates, they're able to secure objectives as well. Right now,
5
Complexity
seconds
doesn't really want to
remaining.
fight into the Ravage.
Yeah.
There's no way, no good way of fighting into the Ravage. But at the same time, Complexity with the Bounty Hunter, they can get a lot of vision across the map with the track, with really deep wards. And if you have that vision to back it up, it's much easier to avoid the Tidehunter, because then if you see all the heroes, you can decide, all right, let's just push this lane or the other lane, right?
Yeah. So they're definitely gonna have to play this way, right? They have to try and get these pickoffs. So with Bounty Hunter, especially in the field, like it's one of these heroes that wants to set up with a vision, as you said, go in, help burst somebody down. He can't necessarily do that himself, other than against perhaps even the Lion, right? Maybe you have enough burst damage if he's already low from something else.
10 seconds remaining.
But outside of that, you need some sort of follow-up. And for now, the Ursa, pretty good
5
hero to do that
seconds
with.
remaining.
Also really good against the
Radiant
Titan lane,
team
actually.
banned.
Because Kraken Shell doesn't really protect you as well against the Ursa because of the fewer swipes continue to stack up. Which makes this a really decent pick in my book. And also against the Death Prophet, right? If you have a bit of protection just from your ultimate, so you can even
10
stand next to the Death
seconds
Prophet for a
remaining.
while, even with the Exorcism going. And unless DP at that point already has a
5
Yulz or
seconds
something,
remaining.
some sort of defensive item, you might just be able to burst it down, and that's the ideal situation, right?
Radiant
Death Prophet
team pick.
pops Exorcism, you go in immediately, burst it down, put it on cooldown, and still have nothing gained from it. This is the way you break this kind of a lineup.
So much aggression coming out from Complexity. I remember a couple of years ago, Invictus Gaming ran this very successful
10
lineup
seconds
that
remaining.
other teams started copying. Actually, it might have been LGD, I'm not sure right now, but it was like
5
this sort of like
seconds
face
remaining.
rush lineup with 3 melee cores, but accelerated by the Bounty Hunter track, allowing them to just run at you. And Ursa and Bounty Hunter, you know, they fit this kind of role, just being very aggressive in your face. Omni Knight enables them as well with the defensive repels
Dire
and
team
purifications. And then there's that carry, that's sort of like the fallback potential. I was definitely looking forward to the SF because I do think they need somebody that, you know, makes use of the defensive capabilities that the Omni Knight provides, while still being able to farm very efficiently and also having a lot of physical damage. So in this sense, I really
10
like this lineup from
seconds
Complexity.
remaining.
But I do think that Immortals has the potential to potentially just, you know, pick a lineup that
5
sort of,
seconds
or pick a
remaining.
hero that provides a lot more control. I say a lot more control, even though they already have 3 heroes that provide a lot of control, right? But I'm looking at heroes that potentially make use of that. Obviously, the Tiny is banned out, but something along those lines, something that has an additional control and also burst damage, and it can also turn into that carry if need be.
I think a lot in this game is going to be decided by the laning stage, because if you look at Complexity, you have to Shadow Fiend again. We've seen what they can do, or what they can't do when he's being shut down or slowed down significantly in the laning stage. And Ursa is a very similar hero, except Ursa doesn't even have that easy fallback potential, right? You don't have any good AoE to farm or jungle camps apart from the Earthshock, which, as we all know, is not necessarily made for that. So if Ursa's off to a really bad start, yeah, sure, maybe you can still get that Roshan, but if you have good vision around that and keep checking, you can also account for that. So
You may now
Immortals,
select your hero.
they have an opportunity there to maybe try and prevent this mid-game snowball from even happening in the first place, because if the laning stage is very passive, if Chassis and Limb get to farm up to their heart's content, then they will get to the point where they find 1 or 2 kills with the Bounty Hunter, with the track just buffing up every once net worth even more, with the Omni Knight getting all the levels that he wants, and yeah, basically Complexity, if they get to play their lineup the way they drafted it, Immortals might have a hard time. But now the Chaos Knight from QO picking it up.
Yeah, I really like this pick.
Yeah.
I was looking for this kind of hero, right? I mean, I did mention the Tiny. The CK, in a lot of ways, they're very similar because you do have a lot of very early game potential, both in the lane, but also just transitioning into that mid game, being able to be that sort of mid game aggressor in a lot of ways. And with he also provides push, which I think is very important here, because right now they obviously do have the Death Prophet, but you want a secondary hero to provide physical damage for those tower pushes, and CK with Phantasm Illusions, of course, one of the better heroes here in this lineup. And of course, again, Complexity will very likely look to take the fight to Immortals in this mid game. And having somebody like the CK that can punish these kind of aggressions, because he has a lot of control early on with the Reality Rift, and of course high amounts of physical burst damage, I think this is a really good pick from Immortals. And I really like this lineup much more so than I did the previous ones. And I think this is a much more balanced game. But like you said, if this, if Complexity just gets going, if they just get the momentum going, if they just start to snowball, it's going to be very difficult for the Dire to come back into this, especially because of that CK. As much as I like the CK pick, he has very real weaknesses. Yeah. If he falls behind, it's going to be very difficult for him to keep up with the farm of the Ursa and the SF, especially given the track gold.
It's very similar to the Ursa and the SF in that regard, right? Because especially the Ursa, because he also doesn't have that natural farming utility. Unless you want to use a Phantom just to try and help you slowly whittle away ancient stacks or something like that. But normally what you want to farm is heroes, right? And to do that you need the levels at the very least and like 1 or 2 items. But yeah, Complexity, I mean, they have the advantage of being up 2-1, so even if they lose this one, they still have another shot. Whereas Immortals, they have a lot of pressure riding on them right now.
Yeah, this time around, Complexity, by the way, not looking for that early smoke, trying to scout out, the lanes, making sure they get the favorable lanes. I feel this is going to be very straightforward. They, in most cases, always want Chessie down here.
It's going to take a lot of damage here. Chessie already with the Fury swipes. He shouldn't die here, making it up to the high ground. Also pretty damn fast on his feet.
310 movement speed.
Yeah.
Then again, there's 328 on the Ursa, but it's just not easy to catch up, and MP is going to get away here. But like you said, taking a lot of damage early on, and might have to send out an early self. Usually,
And look at this, Kyle. Look at where he's at. I mean, they can't even send out the early self. They see him up here just slowing down, just trying to drag back the creep wave a little bit, so that then their own creep wave hits the tower, then it pushes into Moo to get that extra experience. But him being in this... Truce? What?
Because the pause came at a very inopportune moment, he's asking for a truce, because... he found himself in a, as he describes it, a sticky situation.
Yeah. Well, he does have Invis. I'm not sure if they even have detection from him. Dubu doesn't have it. So he should be fine. But his presence in this area just means that that they can't just throw out a self towards mid laner without the risk of it being sniped.
We shall see. Like you said, Kyle just dropping, just drawing the creep wave back, and yeah, like you said, that's actually tangos, not the self. Interesting.
Huh. Well, he's gonna get some extra share tangos as well.
Well, he does have Soul Siphon as well, so I feel like if this was any other hero, it would be a self, but because of the Death Prophet, I feel like you can get away with tangos, and in a way, that's a little bit more efficient than the self, of course, because it's more sustainable regeneration. Kyle getting scouted out now, and I mean, at the very least, he's preventing this courier from coming in.
Yep. And Spirit Siphon, as strong as it is, it's very underwhelming level 1. The only saving grace is that Limp. Also, it doesn't have these extra souls from any sort of cogs or whatever, and also doesn't have the Shadow Race just yet to put on easy pressure onto the Death Prophet himself, so he can just heal up on the tangos once they come back off cooldown.
So cute. Now that they see the Bounty Hunter, immediately the courier walks towards the mid lane. That said, Zefric is coming in here though. Nah, he's just going for a gank. He doesn't want the courier.
He's level 2 on Limp. 1, 2, 3! And the first blood drawn by Zefric here. There was just a tiny sliver of health left, so this courier now, alright. He drops the tangos, also works. But MP right back, full health, full mana. But first blood going their way. Unfortunately, actually, that doesn't go to Shadow Fiend, but he still has plenty of souls regardless.
He's still doing pretty fine. The side lanes thus far, pretty much as expected in a lot of ways. Tide Hunter can't really do too much against the Ursa, of course. Ursa wins pretty much any 1v1 matchup against melee heroes. I can't really think of one that he wouldn't necessarily win.
Yeah, maybe some draw even, but these hero swipes are actually quite annoying to deal with.
And top lane, of course, we do have the Omni Knight just being very annoying, very difficult to zone out as early on. That said, once those heroes hit level 3, level 3 on CK, level 3 in line, I do expect them to be a little bit more aggressive. because then they have a little bit of, not necessarily kill potential, but at the very least they'll be able to make him pay. Mid lane, Soul Siphon, just being a nuisance really, more so than anything. Oh, a DT on Kyle. There's a sentry though available, so it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, he's able to walk back to his own high ground in time. Kyle doesn't... Yeah, he should have figured out, especially when the shots coming through. And now the dust, he's tipping out, and no snowball yet.
It's the level 1 task after all. Also level 1 bounty hunter, so both rumors sort of very starved because they've been battling each other more so than anything else.
Middle tower is under attack.
He's actually hitting quite decent here before the Danker Smash because there's no Kraken Shell up yet on a Titan. He's Dragon Screep of him. Forced to use it on his own tower, so it's still very hard for him to actually get lost, but at the very least that experience is going to be super useful. Up to 3. Level 3 here on this Titan. Even up top, the Hex onto the Omni Knight does not have the repel, but he only threw out the purification. Actually, let's run down Doobie without a Degen Aura, unable to reduce it, and still plenty of control with the drag back. And if Cal taken over, he will be able to finish him off. Maybe there it is. And another purification move. Febby is actually in a lot of trouble himself. Z-Freak also appearing, gets a stun off with the extra live, and QO, you gotta start running here. Can you even make it? Kyle's still level 1, nudging out extra slow, and another drag back is Doobie rejoins the party. Purification, make sure Kyle stays alive.
This bounty is not for you.
What a back and forth in this top lane.
I mean, I did mention that this is going to be the timing for the CK and the line to really go, but unfortunately for them, Kyle just had made the rotation, and of course Z-Freak with the state of mind to TP top, going for that kill. In general, again, I don't really think you have a lot of kill potential in this Omni Knight. If anything, you're just going to zone him out with that damage, but I feel like they felt overconfident because of the Tusk. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's still a level 1 Tusk. If it happened in level 2 Tusk, maybe they get that kill. With the extra snowball lockdown would have actually been sufficient, I believe.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just this Tusk thus far, a very rough game.
MP this time, Z-Freak once again, make rotation from the back, limp, couple of raises.
Febby's still level 1.
He's trying to pick up some boundary runes, but yeah, I guess now he's... might not even get anything done here.
No, he should be able to soak up the experience here.
There's no mana on raises.
As I say that though, DP comes in and get away,
it's my lane. Get out.
How dare you take 1 XP? Kyle is scouted out by the sentry, so they know he's here.
Yeah. Coming in, duel with double stun. Z-Freak taking over though. Lift onto the Lion. Should be able to right kick him down here. Another Hex, but yeah, not going to be enough. Kyle turning around in time. Z-Freak not taking quite a few of tower shots. The stick shots barely keeping him alive, but Q a little bit too fast on his feet.
I'm surprised he went for the repel there, because Reality Rift already went through.
Yeah.
Either way, still good for them.
God,
it's not too bad for Q either though, but yeah, Febby, again, he's still only level 1. This Husk has not accomplished anything thus far, and they really need to get him some experience. And yeah, now the line is moving out of the lane, and finally Febby hits level 2.
5 minutes in, this is still not really good.
Small victories that count.
Yeah, I guess. 4F thinking the same thing, just, yeah, I'll just farm here. Don't worry. It's not even farming, it's just doing the same thing that Kyle did earlier on the other side of the map, just Dragon creep wave around. Even if you lose this one, we'll make sure that...
Scan's going to connect, but it's way too late. Kyle's already here in the mid lane, setting up this double race potentially.
He's still just barely alive, but Z-Freak, well, grab the Tusk instead. Febby, level 2 or not, still very, very low level means you're very not tanky.
Really good rotation. It was actually a really good sort of moment of awareness for the Dire side. They scanned and were expecting this gank, but unfortunately Kyle was already in the mid lane. Sentry, of course, already timed out, so Kyle not being able to scout it out.
Oh, he gets a bounty rune, doesn't even get his cleverly cancelled. Meanwhile, bottom lane.
Solo kill from Jesse.
Yeah.
Didn't even need to use the ultimate.
Face boost, through punch up and nerf shock. It's a lot of slow, 45%. It's I really like this draft and the way these lanes ended up shaping up for complexity, because you have these 2 solo lanes, and that means that both supports are free to do whatever they want, and it really had a lot of impact on mid as well as top.
Especially since Immortals have been unable to punish this, right? They haven't really been able to apply pressure onto those solo lanes, and the rotations, it seems like they're always one step behind. Maybe they can get this kill though.
It's being shotted in this though, with there's the dust coming through as Kyle comes out of the snowball. He still ends up falling. 1-1 trade so far, Limp out of raises, but has a few coming back now. Z-Freak also threatening, making sure that 4th and MP cannot continue this
This is the rotation from a 4F Tidehunter who's not even level 6 yet.
Yeah.
If he has a Ravage there available, well, actually, no, the Death Prophet doesn't even have a whole ultimate either as well, so not a lot of kill potential here, and this is just effectively 2 lanes lost by a large margin. And the top lane, yeah, they technically won it because the Seek is obviously free farming, but it's not like they've been really shutting down this Omni Knight either. Look at him, he's just farming this pole, the stack, or this pole rather.
Level 5 now after that. He's exactly where one wants to be. Soldering already with should probably finish up the 1 before going for the phase boots. Not flying out just yet. He has the Iron Badge in his inventory. On the courier rather. TP in as a diving down bottom here. Forward will still end up falling. Chassis really deep, and now has to walk to the left. Still already has a Blink Dagger, so there's no way they can actually catch him.
Well,
so freaking early.
This is a rotation. Well, not necessarily wasted. He can farm here, of course, but this does open up the top lane for the Omni Knight. So, not a good rotation by any means. And this Tidehunter, yet again, still not level 6.
Complexity just running away with this early game, and this is exactly what we're saying in the draft. Immortals can't let happen, right? I mean, what's the way back into this?
To be fair, well, they do have definitely a comeback potential here, of course, with the Death Prophet and Tidehunter. They'll always be able to take big team fights, something that Complexity currently don't have. And also, this Mountain is not level 6 yet, so all these kills, yeah, you have you're ahead 7 kills, but it doesn't really mean too much just yet. You're not snowball territory. Maybe with this kill though.
MP, well, coming in with the ultimate now. One more right click will do it, but for now, Spirit Siphon keeping him alive. And next one on coL. Instead, they have to refocus onto Q. Also, very important target. Nice little stun though from Dubu to try and turn this around. Now move with the Guardian Angel. Another blink forward. Jesse continues to slow people down. 1 down, 2 down. The exorcism still going, but it doesn't really mean too much. Double kill for Limp. Killing spree for Chastity, just getting everything that they want. Apart from maybe the Titan, he's pretty damn fast, but Chessie is faster because an instant teleport. Triple kill as Limp takes it away from his carry.
They didn't lose a single hero.
Oh, no, I'm telling you, man.
They got coL, I believe.
Oh yeah, coL died.
But
coL always dies.
Pretty much like the last game, it doesn't matter at all that coL dies here. Yeah. And this was the exorcism committed as well, so the first use of that ultimate and the first use of the Phantasm as well, completely wasted in a lot of ways. And
you're saying like they do have these ultimates, but level 1 exorcism very limited in terms of the damage output.
I will say that if they had level 6 Tidehunter available, completely different fight. But the Tidehunter completely useless. He's still level 5.5. He's been that way for 4 minutes now. Or it feels probably like 2.5 only, but still.
I think it's only 10 minutes in. It's like it's consistent with offlaners that are being pressured a lot, right? Or that have a very unfavorable matchup. But because Complexity is just so far ahead, it feels like they're in the mid game, but Immortals are still stuck in the laning phase.
The thing is, yeah, he's obviously going to fall behind because, you know, as you said, it's a very unfavorable matchup. But after that rotation mid, where he realizes, well, I TP'd in here, but I can't really do anything, he was level 5.5. He should have just fallen back into the jungle, leveled up that that Ravage, and then he would have been fine. He's going to get it now, but it feels like this is at least 2 minutes too late. And in the meantime,
no life steal for Chassis, but there's a DD rune and Omni Knight sitting next to him. coL also helping out with tanking up a few of these fights. And this Fuzzy Wuzzy is way too powerful. Febby, if you go on him, he can snowball out and delay things a little bit if he even gets it off. And it just goes for shots. There's a snowball now. One more right click. Has to dive under the tower now. Level 6 finally online on Tidehunter. Jesse will just use the Aegis immediately. The Ravage will connect on Shadowfiend as well. So Omni Knight. It's in a follow-up. Straight up blink out. A bit of a waste, Aegis for just the support.
Definitely a waste. It was not a good decision to go for that kill, really. I understand the mentality, and they are ahead, of course, and it's a lineup and a hero that you want to stay ahead with, right? And you want to keep on snowballing even further. But of course, giving away that Aegis this early, it doesn't necessarily pull Immortals back into the game, but it's a morale boost for them for sure, knowing that the Aegis isn't available anymore.
Yeah, at the same time, they still had to commit the Ravage to make sure that the follow-up didn't come through Complexity. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It goes both ways, right? And the true meaning of that, like we can only really judge that play after we've seen how the next couple of minutes play out, because alright, Dark Courier has been killed. coL doing bounty on things.
I believe actually Moo was perfectly pinging out when the courier was going to be there as well. He's like, dude, just sit there, sit exactly there, and you're going to get the courier. And he did.
But yeah, back to my point, right? Some of these kind of plays you can only judge after you see the next couple of minutes, because then if Jesse goes in aggressively again and he dies, we could have used the Aegis in a different fight, then yeah, that was a waste as it stands. If that doesn't happen, if they instead find another team fight where the Ravage would have been super useful, it looks different already, right? Now that is, they're gonna go in, Dubu gets the instant hacks off, but tracked up this time, Jesse will still help find a kill. Zifri
Spike stolen.
Snapping that away.
CK might just die instantly here.
Oh no, QO so low. Is able to make his way back to base. Nice little eye shots actually blocking the way into a little bit, but again, what was I just saying? Ravage would be very useful for high ground defense. Still on cooldown for 45 seconds.
And the thing is, Complexity shouldn't really commit to this, and they are indeed not doing so. Yeah, they are ahead, but taking towers with SF Ursa this early on is not effective.
Free damage is free damage.
Yeah, free damage for sure. It's free damage, but you know, it's good that they also rotate back, and they definitely need at least another item or two on both heroes really to just do this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But they're on a good track, really.
They're making right decisions though, right? As you said, falling back there, definitely will play. Overcommitting is the way that you throw games like this. And it's got to take it one step at a time, realize
by the way, more farm than the Death Prophet.
Oh yeah, that's pretty usual, isn't it?
Almost.
Zifri gets the carry, right?
This is absolutely... Is
that how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. This Death Prophet has fallen behind by so much. Lost the laning stage quite significantly after those rotations, and then hasn't really been able to find anything, really. Committed the ultimate a couple of times, was it twice actually, I think? At least once, and she wasn't able to find anything, of course, and it's just very difficult as a Death Prophet to just find the kind of farm if you can't touch the towers. And right now, they can't touch towers because the lanes are constantly pushed in.
Trying to bait out MP and it'll be successful. Can they save him? Snowball coming through. We're doing it on MP. Now the repel starting to turn the things around. Tusk almost being nuked down immediately. Cure showing himself now. Dubu with the Hex.
Ravage is available.
Complexity and they're in a good position. They're not really going to ham. If they are, they're going as a unit, right? They're not really too far away from each other, but they're also focusing on what's important. Tier 1 still standing, so they're getting ready to fix that.
Good awareness here from Immortals to retreat. I think it's very enticing to take this fight because both ultimates are available, right? The Death Prophet and the Tidehunter, and they had a ward uphill as well. But I believe they realized that Complexity obviously must have had some vision here behind the tower. And indeed they did, so that would have been a very unfavorable fight to take, and I applaud that decision. It's not easy to make this kind of decision when you're behind like this, because it's very tempting to think, we have to take a fight like this right now. Like, our ultimates are available, we're not going to peek any further right now, so let's take it, but I believe they have to take a fight high ground. I don't think they can just fight here outside the base.
It seems like they're a little bit unsure, because they're all sitting behind this Death Prophet. Right now they're still just trying to bait her out like before. I mean, we had QO just sitting in the sides, even down there, ready to maybe try and come in, but Complexity, they're not biting. Their game sense is too strong right now, and of course
it sounds maybe a little bit stupid, but at this stage they do have to rely on Complexity to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen Chessie overextend for a kill. Yeah, they did commit Ravage for that, but next time maybe they don't have to commit Ravage for that, right?
Yeah.
If everybody's there, they're maybe able to punish these kind of aggression moves, and that's why I do like this approach, staying a little bit passive and staying behind the Death Prophet, but knowing, alright, now is the time to just split the map again and just swarm, because obviously Complexity isn't pushing just yet. And again, Complexity's lineup doesn't push that well either. So this is really something that, you know, Immortals just need to stay patient. It's not easy by any means, because again, they're very, very pressured and they're very, very far behind. 13k net worth, in fact. Almost like 1,000 gold per minute.
Like, it can't feel good to just stand around there and be this patient when you know. Like, of course, they don't have the exact number, but they must know, hey, we're so far behind on our course, so we want to split up and farm, but you have to find the right moments to do that. And, well, these kind of smoke gangs here, not quite scouted out. They bring down a few heroes here, especially with the Ravage. One of them was very important here. Chessie dropping 4th, claiming the kills. Maybe not ideal.
This is the kind of mistakes that we're looking for. I gotta say, I was gonna make a point about how smart Complexity were being, because Kyle was scouting out the backlines, and Zifrik was positioning himself in a way where he was gonna dispel the smoke before they actually saw him.
Look at him, he has a BKB. He wants to fight this 1 raise, 2 raise. Everybody raise with a couple of right clicks, pops with BKB now. It's fighting up against Fabi to Snowball. To the creep wave, I believe, But Limp, ideally he wants bigger and better targets. But at the very least, they do get that track kill, and they do still save their tower.
Yeah, but again, they committed BKB for this.
Yeah. This is as good as it's going to get for Immortals.
Pretty much. But yeah, that previous engagement, Chessie just shouldn't have jumped in there. Z-Freak dying there is the best trade they could have gotten, really, because they knew the smoke was coming.
Yeah.
And just giving up that Z-Freak support is totally fine in that scenario.
Z-Freak is carry. We established this earlier. Come on, man.
Fair point.
But yeah, he's definitely playing very far ahead as if he actually was. He almost has 4 staff. He has a casual Voidstone, actually. It's interesting. Going towards a Yule's later? I mean, also the Windlay, so...
He had a couple of different items queued up in between. He even wanted to blink at first at some point, but, you know, might even... I don't know what he's going for. Probably Yule's at some point, yeah, like
Speaking of Yule's, MP. That's such an important core item here, especially in this game, because it does give you the defensive utility against Ursa, blinking in on you with the overpower. So, you can still play around that, right? You can still probably wait it out with how strong he is and with the enrage and everything, but it just makes it so much easier for DP to survive these fights with Exorcism, and that's, at this point, that's the main source of damage here. Cure, sure it can do something, but it's not quite there. It really relies on these surviving and even getting the extra ones.
You can see the effects, by the way, of the BKB being used. Complexity is not really ready to take any fights right now, because... I mean, obviously BKB is back up now, but without the BKB available, they can't look for fights. They can't fight into Ravage CK at all. So they've been splitting the map, and they haven't really applied pressure at all onto Immortals. And Immortals, as you mentioned, as you just pointed out, you know, they're getting those items. CK also queued up the Midas, and once he does have it, he's going to be able to at least keep up in terms of experience and net worth with the opponents. So
still feels like it's one of these kind of decisions where it's like, all right, 20-minute Midas. Or like 19 minutes, between 19 and 20, that's when you will pick it up. It never feels good, and it doesn't pay off unless this game goes really into late game stage. And look at this complexity.
But he has a Yule's. It's not an easy pick-off at all.
Yeah. Thinking about it, reevaluating. Also because they don't quite have the vision up high ground. We'll actually see him there.
Complexity are... It sounds silly to say, but Complexity are currently in a position where they're just not sure how to approach this game. Immortals are doing a really good job at spreading the map, but not in a way where they're caught out by, you know, one by one. If anything, they're always making sure that the supports are close by. Tidetender was sitting right next to the CK while he was farming, realizing that right now, all that matters is that CK and Death Prophet get farmed. Everybody else just has to get experience, if anything, and all they really need to provide is their abilities. Tidehunter, ideally, of course, he gets items, but right now they need to make sure that the CK and the Death Prophet farm up. And we do have that Midas now, and I wouldn't count on Immortals at all. Really, they're not in a bad position, all things considered, giving this lineup and also giving the aggression early on from Complexity. Complexity, if anything, they've taken the pace out of the game potentially way too quickly, and giving a lot of space right now to Immortals.
Immortals, yeah, maybe they're in a better position than Complexity maybe should have allowed them to be. They're also getting a bit of a break with Roshan not immediately respawning. It's a fairly long time on this one. So Immortals are actually feeling confident enough to get outside their base, and this is always a good sign, right? Being able to get outside the base, secure your own jungle. As you say that though, there is vision. Complexity now sees MP walking up, they see this camp being farmed by someone. And I see the shots on the other side, and they smoked up themselves. They want to punish this, and they will be able to. MP has no support up here. You'll step up to the latest a little bit. But look at Lim's positioning here. He sees Fabi intercept that while the rest of his team finishes the kill. 2 track kills. And at least the one. Not sure if they actually got it off.
I think it was just the one track kill, actually. But yeah, I just made a point about how Immortals had done a really good job at sort of protecting the cores while farming.
Yeah.
But then MP is there pretty much by himself.
Yeah, this one lapse of judgment, just spreading out. Just I don't know what they were thinking actually. Whether Complexity was on the other side of the map farming dead jungle.
To be fair, they did just see the Ursa bottom. He was pushing out, and he also had illusions available. Potentially, they just assumed he was still going to be there, but he immediately TP top after pushing out one wave, and maybe caught them off guard. It doesn't cost them Roshan just yet. I believe it's
5 seconds off.
Yeah. Well, they can technically contest it. They could TP in. They do have a shrine there close by, of course, but they have to TP in a lot of people. The CK, of course, currently pushing out the bottom wave, and yeah, indeed, they are heading towards the Roshan pit. Or are they actually?
No, they have to, right? But they're gonna be too late. There's also a medallion on somebody, I want to say. They have the presence of the Dark Lord Max. Yeah, medallion on coL. This Roshan's falling way too quickly for them to contest. They are smoked up, but they are going to be too late. And now, Move just running into him, gets a repel off. So no easy damage coming in. Exorcism is used, but now Limp charging in. 1 raise, 2 raise. Couple more, and they cannot deal with this big hold. BK beat up. Hero MP already fallen. The Hex up on the Ursa, but they're all protected by Guardian Angel anyway. Febby next one to fall. 3 heroes down. Make it a 4th one. Make it a 5th one. 4 is not fast enough to walk out this one either. GG is called, and this is all over. Just like that, 22 minutes. Complete outclass in this game 4. Complexity. They punched their ticket all the way to Genting.
Honestly, they're outclassed them in the entire series. Obviously, that was the one game, of course, that Immortals did win, but in all 3 games that Complexity won, they were incredibly dominant. They took it pretty much away from the laning stage from the get-go. Didn't really give Immortals a lot of breathing room at all, especially in this game. Putting the aggression early on, we did, or rather, I did criticize them, you know, for that maybe like minute, or rather like 3 to 4 minutes where they didn't really do anything, just sitting back. But of course, with the lead that they did have, it didn't really matter too much. And of course, also Immortals with that lapse of judgment. But what an incredible performance from Complexity,
Absolutely.
really.
Right.
They absolutely destroyed Immortals here in this finals, and it kind of... I guess, again, you know, people did expect Complexity to be the favorites going into this because, of course, Complexity does have the better track record at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
They've proven themselves on LAN time and time again at multiple events now, and they are invited to the major, to the PGL major.
Yep.
They're going to get to ESL 1 Genting as the NA representative from this qualifier,
Yep.
and in a very dominating fashion.
Absolutely. Like, it's even super hard to just name an MVP. Like, Z-Freak, you could say him, like, again, in this game even, 6, 2, and 12 on the support Rubik. Not all Rubiks that we've seen in this qualifier have managed to accomplish that, but then again, it's also because the rest of the team is just so in sync with him and just making good use of every single one of these rotations. So, yeah.
You know, I agree. It's difficult to really call out an MVP. It's easy to call out the flashy players, right? Again, Z-Freak, of course, being involved in all of these kills and getting a lot of kills for himself, but it can't really be underestimated how valuable coL has been in all of these games, providing necessary information with with just early rotations, warding very deep, and just giving his team the space, really. I think in pretty much all the games that we've cast with them, if anything, coL's always been the punching bag.
Yeah,
but
like he's the one who's riding the edge. Like he's feeling out. All right, how far can we go? Sometimes he steps above. Sometimes he steps across. I mean, sometimes he goes on a warding mission, gets instantly killed. But it never really matters all that much because in doing so, he always draws the attention of a couple of heroes. He always finds that information that you were mentioning. And he always, as a result, the rest of his team is doing so much better for it.
No, this was definitely a very convincing series for Complexity. For Immortals, I gotta say, I feel like we haven't really seen much different. We haven't really seen anything different from them ever since they've gotten back together. It feels like the team has maybe stagnated a little bit, and they aren't really finding their rhythm. Right?
Yeah.
We haven't even this draft. It's actually very reminiscent of what they drafted at the very beginning when they got back together. It doesn't really feel like they have any new ideas or potentially a new way of approaching the meta right now. And I do think that the break over the holidays might just be what they really needed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams really can need it. For Complexity, maybe it's a little bit of a bummer because you do have that momentum going right now. You've been on a hot streak for the past couple of months now. You've been doing really well on LAN as well against international teams. So this break might come at a bit of an inopportune time, but at the same time, you've already qualified for Genting now anyway. Yeah. And that LAN is also coming up next month, actually.
Yeah, I believe that's in January.
Yes.
The next ESL event will be a major as well. ESL
the
1.
Following that is going to be
following that, yeah. It's going to be great as well, of course. The qualifiers for that will be in January as well. Do stay tuned for that. But for now, for these past couple of days, we are done. We've gone through CIS, SEA, Europe, with two teams coming through there, and now NA concluding as well. South American Dota also. These qualifiers were going on, remote casted by Moxie and Ford.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. Yeah.
We've definitely, I think we've gotten a lot of attention these past couple of days, but it cannot be said enough that they've done a really fantastic job managing that line, and it's been a grind for sure. Also, shout out to John Dota, of course, for providing this coverage or for putting it all together. ESL of course as well.
Yeah.
But then of course also I want to give a personal shout out to Gareth, Vash, and KitKat. They've been taking care of us really greatly.
Babysitting, cooking, everything. Just,
I'm pretty sure. If we're really quiet, we can hear Gareth celebrating the fact that he can actually go to bed now. Like the guy, not only is casting, but he's also been, making sure that everything's running smoothly. And he's been here every day for like over 12 hours almost.
Yeah, I mean, he tweeted yesterday that he's getting grumpy because he hasn't even seen his own PC in a couple of days.
So
but,
give him some love. Give all of the guys here some love. Shane, Brax, really. Lacoste, been a lot of fun days, and hopefully we get to do this again for the Katowice qualifiers.
Yeah, hopefully. And one thing to note as well, last thing I want to bring in, we still have one region left in Genting qualifiers, and that'll be the Chinese games. Let's not forget about them, because China, I don't know if you've heard, but they're a pretty strong region sometimes,
Well, sometimes.
Quite decent.
I mean, if I look at team standings
yeah.
right now from the Dota Pro circuit, there's not a lot of China there.
Yeah, but they're a force to be reckoned with. On and off every once in a while. I mean, they still play. Most of the ISA still plays rather highly, even if they don't win all of them. So it's definitely worth watching, and they'll be coming up on the 28th through 30th. Those were a couple of game days. I'll be back here in Berlin to bring in that with Gareth, I assume. So do stay tuned for that. That's coming up after Christmas, before New Year. So nice little timing window here for you to just get over these last couple of days of 2017.
Other than that, I don't think there's much else left to say except thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating, or if you're not celebrating, just at least enjoy the days off, and then see you guys in the next year, or if you're him, at least see him next week.
Yeah. Same from me, of course. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you soon.